So Rachel, Zoe, and I did our presentation on the gender pay gap. So who's going to take it on?
I will start with social policy in general. So what a social policy is different areas of policy, often like in a governmental or political setting, and it can refer to specific guidelines, laws, legislation, etc., and affect the living conditions of certain like groups of people, either on a micro or macro level. And for our specific policy, for the gender pay gap policy, the first time it was introduced as a policy was in the 1963 Equal Pay Act, established under JFK, which was supposed to lead to equal pay, but has not yet. Obviously, it's still an issue, and Congress didn't pass it, and it was failed to move forward. Currently, in our policy, a woman makes 77 to 79 cents for every dollar a man makes, which explains kind of the overall issue with our social policy.
So the ideological values is the idea that women are less essential to the workforce in pretty much every culture and socioeconomic system. So women are seen as not being as devout to their job or reliable once they have kids. This makes the gender pay gap a super politicized issue because it also deals with paid maternity leave and other women absences. So anti-feminists, such as social conservatives, say that the ideal family is a married couple in a lifelong monogamous relationship where the husband is a disciplinary and economic provider and the wife is the housemaker in charge of raising the children. So they see that the woman's job should be like at home, they should be a housewife, and they're being selfish by going to work, ignoring family values and parental responsibilities. So occupational segregation is segregation within the workplace, and this justifies and promotes the gender pay gap. So historically, women have been in different industries, but now they're kind of going into what's seen as like man's work. And in those occupations, they're being undervalued and being paid less. And men are, especially because men are seen as more reliable due to the fact they don't have, they're not the primary caregiver for their children, and so they're usually able to get promotions and higher wages compared to women.
So as for like the families affected by the gender pay gap, obviously like women are the target audience affected, and women are affected by this like no matter their race, like age, class, like any of those factors, and in almost every occupation too they're affected by it. And the ratios are off for how much men versus women make. And the total estimated loss of earnings of women compared with men is $700,000 for a high school graduate and $1.2 million for a college graduate and $2 million for a professional school graduate, which is like a crazy amount of difference. And gender pay gap has become increasingly important within families as men have become more likely than women to lose jobs during the Great Recession, and this like has created like an insult to injury type thing because obviously if women are making less because of the gender pay gap, like their families are suffering as a result because like if their husbands are losing their jobs, the wives can't make enough to provide because of like this policy and the fact that like it's still a huge issue, especially when the man is like originally the main breadwinner. And women of like single like parent families, like when it's only a single mother, they struggle obviously a lot more because it's only them and it's not a co-breadwinner family, even though co-breadwinner families also suffer. And co-breadwinner families include wives who bring home at least 25%, which is obviously less than their husbands bring home, which creates an even greater issue. As of now, working wives contribute 37% of their family's incomes, which is like a huge amount, but it's not enough because of the like recession issue and men's like job stability being like very fluctuating in this economy. And yeah, obstacles for single mothers because of hours, childcare, high unemployment rates, and low demand for typical female jobs also creates a huge issue for the families affected by gender pay gap.
So women are currently half of the working force, yet there is an average pay gap of $10,784, and it's projected that like with government help, it won't be fixed until 2059. And it's not a problem that affects one race or one socioeconomic background more than any other. Everyone's kind of affected by it, and your education level doesn't matter, or what your ethnic background is. You are still most likely going to be making less than your male counterparts. Additionally, there is a little bit of a difference between if you're African American, American Indian, or Native Hawaiian, you do make a lower median than those of like white or Asian American women. So there is a little bit of difference between women, but overall they make less than their male counterparts.
And the next slide shows a graph of kind of how that's displayed over the different races and education levels.
Over different years, like the growth.
So policies aimed to fix the gender pay gap are targeted to help women. Women are 47% of the workforce, and they are in 80% of the new jobs created by the economy since 1980. And they also receive more college degrees than men now. But sex discrimination is still virtually in every occupation. So there also are some unintended targets of audiences of policies. These are the children of these women and their husbands, who would be receiving more money if the pay gap was fixed. So the effects of federal laws and policy so far, the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination in the workplace based on sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. And this had to do with firing, hiring, and promotions. So what happens is these people can file a claim if they think that they're being discriminated against, the EECO, and then from there they'll take action. So there have been improvements, but this is still a serious problem, as we can see with the recent statistics on how much less women are making compared to men, and there's still discrimination in the workplace. So the Equal Pay Act of 1963 wasn't passed by Congress, but if it was passed or is passed in the future, this would prohibit discrimination based on sex. So it would mean equal work for equal pay. Women could be paid less than men. And the poverty, and one of the biggest effects of this would be the poverty rate of working women would be cut in half if paid the same amount as men. So this could have a huge effect on poverty in this country as well.
There are approaches that many governments are currently looking into. It's definitely been a big topic in recent presidential debates and things like that. So Obama put into action the Non-Retaliation for Disclosure of Compensation Act, which essentially means that there needs to be allowed like open discussion on what employees are making, and like between employees, so that women can kind of see what their male counterparts are making and kind of demand that they get paid the equal amount. So additionally, there's like state level laws. California has a really good one called the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, which prohibits sex discrimination. But most states vary on their laws, and you can like look it up online. Additionally, if women feel as if they're being targeted, they can take it up and file a complaint to their Equal Employment Opportunity Commission within 180 days. And then if it passes through there and they deem it a true case, you can file a lawsuit and take legal matters. Additionally, a future hope is to ban salary negotiations, because this would mean that because women statistically aren't as good as negotiating their salaries, and it doesn't end up with a fair amount of increase compared to men. So if this was enacted, there wouldn't be salary negotiations anymore, but it would require extreme transparency within a company, because people wouldn't be able to argue for more money. So the company would have to be fairly honest in giving them what they really deserve. Yeah, and in Europe they have different kind of ideas. But a lot of it right now is just gaining support. They have a whole day called the European Equal Pay Day, which spreads awareness of the gender gap. And currently the United States is number 37 in the world. And so, and like a lot of the European countries are above them. So they should probably be following these kind of facts.
And next you can see our Works Cited page.
That's it.
Thank you.